but I would make a plea out there to the industry, to commissioners of projects, to allow for that space, to allow for that time, to allow for the budgets to be able to do things a little bit more meaningfully. Because we all know, right? We all know that to develop ideas authentically with the community, we are beyond that sort of idea of tick box consultation. We all know that's the wrong thing to do, but to enable it to happen properly, you need the time, you need the budget.
Hello, welcome to Talking Place, the podcast bringing placemakers and storytellers together to talk about place. I'm your host, Tanisha Raffiuddin. I am the founder of Concept Culture, a creative agency in London, passionate about creating purposeful brands and telling powerful stories. In this episode, it is my absolute pleasure to talk place with not one, but two very special guests and friends, Rumi Bose and Palak Jhunjhunwala. Concept Culture has been collaborating with Rumi and Palak on several place-making projects together, the most recent being creating the place narrative and identity of the Masterplan of a major tyre manufacturing plant in our motherland in India. We cover a lot of ground in this episode around co-designing with the community through meaningful stakeholder engagement and our experience of working across borders, creating authentic narratives of places and people deeply grounded in local history, food, festivals, and culture, how to tell the story of culturally rich and diverse places like India, and what a dream it can be to work with enlightened clients. We will first talk place with Rumi Bose. Rumi is an urban designer and place shaping consultant with 16 years of regeneration experience across London's high streets and town centres. Rumi has prolific experience leading multidisciplinary teams, working with communities and skilled partner organisations to build better places. A passionate place shaping expert, her high street projects have won New London Architecture, RIBA and Civic Trust Awards. Rumi is chair of the NLA's High Street Expert Panel, board member of Future of London, and the Property Exchange Sounding Board. All right, let's talk place. Rumi, welcome to Talking Place, a podcast where we bring placemakers and storytellers together to talk about place.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure, Rumi. So, Rumi, you and I know each other quite well. For the benefit of our listeners, why don't you share your journey so far and tell us a little bit about the role you play in shaping our built environment?
Sure, yeah. So I am an urban designer by training, by background, and I've been working in the field for 15 or 16 years. My experience has largely been within the public sector in capital project delivery. So I understand how that kind of sphere of our sector works. But really my role has always been bringing people together from different disciplines, the design, the engineering, the planning, all the different multidisciplinary processes that are part of the built environment sector, bringing those together and delivering a final outcome. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, my role. I now run my own practice, Rumi Bose Consultancy, and I advise across the sector, both private and public sector, and other charities, community organisations, creative, cultural, again, with that role of bringing people together to deliver good places.
Amazing. And I love how you talk about good places. And you know that I love a good definition. So how would you define what makes a good place? Or put simply, what does a good place mean to you?
So I'm not sure if I can give a crisp definition, but for me, certainly it's emotional. So a good place is a place where you feel good, you feel comfortable, you feel safe, you feel enabled, you feel seen, and there are many aspects to that. But yeah, it's an emotional, it's a feeling.
I couldn't agree more. It's so much of how we navigate our lives is through places and through buildings, and a lot of it, for those of us particularly who live in urban environments, it's through cities. And from the moment we're born to the moment that we die, we are walking through the built environment, walking through these places that have been built and shaped by people. And so it really makes a huge impact on our personal journeys as we grow and evolve and navigate through this world. So if I were to ask you a personal question, what is your favorite place in the whole world?
Gosh, that's a big question. Off the top of my head, one of my favorite cities in the world is Paris. And one of my favorite places in Paris is this beautiful square called Place de Vosges. It's close to Bastille and not far from the riverside. But it's a beautiful place. It's historic. It's an 18th century, although don't quote me on that, an 18th century square, quite enclosed with trees and arcades around the four sides of the square, which are filled with a number of different artisanal shops and cafes and museums, the Picasso museums up the road. So there's a lot of history and culture and good form and proportion. I always go there when I go to Paris. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Like while you were describing it, I was picturing it. I mean, I've been there myself, and it's definitely up there and one of the most beautiful places in the world. So thank you for sharing that. Going back to what makes a good place. So you, as an urban designer, as a place shaper, as a stakeholder engagement specialist, what's your go-to methodology when it comes to, or approach when it comes to making good places?
So I think specifically when it comes to stakeholder engagement, it starts with the stakeholders, right? It has to start with the people. And of course, it's not a one size fits all. Whenever I begin a project and I'm there to sort of look at the community engagement, the stakeholder engagement, or the co-design, I suppose my first thing is about research, audit, trying to discover what this place is, who operates here. It's like opening a box and finding out what's inside. Who are the people that live here, work here? Who are the organizations that are doing good work in terms of place and people? And how could this new project, program, proposal, whatever I am commissioned to do, how is that knitting into the place and its people authentically? And to do that, you've got to start with the people. I am not an expert in that sense. The people, the local people, are the experts. So I need to hear from them and consult with them and have them lead where the project goes. So yeah, that's the approach.
That's amazing. And so again, talking about co-design and stakeholder engagement, you maybe share some of the success stories that you had, and also examples of when things go wrong, and how can we navigate when things go wrong as well.
Yeah. One of my favorite projects that I've worked on in recent years, one very close to my heart, is Peveril Gardens, Peveril Gardens and Studios, which is a project that I worked on with Architecture Practice Centres Benton, and a number of other talented practitioners, Alda Rinaldi, who's a public art curator, Gabriel Curry, who's an artist, Nigel Dunnett, who's a horticulturalist. And the project was very much about reimagining a place that didn't work very well, but through and with and for the community. So that was always front and centre. At the time, I was actually a Southwark Council officer. So for the council, almost always it's the communities that live and work around the place that we are looking to serve. So that was a really nice success story because there was community involvement, co-design, engagement throughout, from the beginning to the end. We consulted with the community. We had them take us on a journey, explain to us what this place meant to them, how they used it, why it didn't work, what could be reimagined here. And what was really nice about that project was we had the time. So we did that for, I would say, at least a year. We were sort of talking, developing, refining, and incrementally kind of changing what we thought could happen. And the results of that are wonderful, because what happens now in the space is beyond what we could have imagined for ourselves. The operators of the space are a fantastic contemporary arts organisation called Forma. They run a cultural programme. They do incredible outreach work. They involve the residents who live next door. They involve the local school across the road. They involve the local care home. And as I say, it's above and beyond what we could have done on our own. So that collectivism and that journey that we were able to go on together was really valuable.
Wow. I mean, having visited Peveril Gardens recently with you and the LDN Collective, I can definitely echo the sentiment that it is a place that makes you feel good. It does seem like it's in a very disconnected part of Southeast London, but when you go there and you see it, it's almost like a beacon inviting you to come in, and it's open to the public, so you can go and have a coffee, spend some time there. Maybe in the summer, go up to the terrace and spend some time in that beautiful garden and enjoy the views surrounding it. So for me, having visited Peveril Gardens, I thought it was definitely an asset to the local area for someone who's passing through, but also for the community, as you explained to us that certain parts of the week it's community only, and only community have access to it. So that's very much a testament to the work and the collaboration with your team. But I want to pick up specifically on what you mentioned about time. And you said it took a year. So for those who are listening and think, oh my God, I don't have a year, how would one approach a shorter time frame?
Yeah, I mean, that's the flip side of it. And you asked about what hasn't worked well, or some stories that haven't been so successful. And I think almost always it's when, for whatever reason, the process doesn't have that time, that program doesn't have the time, so you're not able to do meaningfully what you should be doing. So then stakeholder engagement, or consultation or co-design becomes less meaningful, and it becomes just tick box, which is obviously, or it can be seen to be tick box, or it can come across as tick box if there isn't that time, because you're restricted. You have to work with, you're working with what you've got. But I would make a plea out there to the industry, to commissioners of projects, to allow for that space, to allow for that time, to allow for the budgets to be able to do things a little bit more meaningfully. Because we all know, right? We all know that to develop ideas authentically with the community, we are beyond that sort of idea of tick box consultation. We all know that's the wrong thing to do, but to enable it to happen properly, you need the time, you need the budget. So that would be good if industry-wide that was kind of less of a prevalence. Unfortunately, it isn't so much. But yeah, you have to work with what you've got, and in that case, I would absolutely manage expectations, both to your clients, to the community, but also as a professional, I would have to sort of say, well, this is what I can do and do that well, rather than sort of trying to do as much as possible and spreading yourself too thin. I'd rather do 3 good workshops than 6 workshops, or go for 2 walks rather than do too much. So I think, yeah, it's just a common sense approach, but just working within what you have, but to do it as meaningfully and as impactfully as possible, but not forgetting to manage expectations. I think that's ultimately what upsets people, is when they thought something was going to happen and that's not what happened. But if you're very clear at the outset in terms of the constraints, we are not here to solve the viability, for example. We are not here to talk about how high the building is going to be, but we are here to talk about these things, and just setting that record straight at the very beginning, I think it might not go down very well at the outset, but when people are clear and they understand what you're here to do and what you're not here to do, I think that sort of sets the tone and just helps ultimately.
And have you gone back to Peveril Gardens and spoken to the community about how they're using the space, or how it has changed their lives, so to speak?
So I haven't spoken to the residents individually, but I have met a couple, and one of the local residents has a lovely role almost that he's created for himself as a volunteer. He was great during the project as well, but he's a keen gardener, and he's a massive fan of Nigel Dunnett, who designed the garden. So he was always keen to come to the bulb planting days, or to come along and sort of help. And he's now almost like he's formed a kind of friends of type or gardening community group that he sort of leads, and he's so passionate about it. So that's great. That's what you want from any project, for the legacy to continue and the local people to be holding that up. So that's what he does. And I was in the cafe shop not so long ago, and there were some postcards of the garden with a photograph of the garden that had been taken by Richard, this chap who does the gardening, and he'd sort of put these postcards together and they were selling them in the shop. So yeah, it's a really nice story that this community of local gardening enthusiasts have come together. And
oh, I love it. That's so beautiful, and I love the fact that you're part of that legacy. You're part of that story. The work that has been done, the project that has been delivered, has an impact. Hopefully for many years to come, while the design team has stepped away from the project. And I think that's what I'm very interested in, particularly when the work we do in concept culture, when we collaborate with yourself, and we work with Sanchez Benton too on another project in Neasden. We're very much about celebrating that community story and highlighting what makes a place special. So I know we can't talk much about what we did at Neasden, but perhaps we can share a little bit of success stories that we can.
Yeah, for sure. So Neasden was, I suppose it's safe to say that Neasden was an example where we didn't have a great deal of time to do the engagement. We had the time we had the resources that were available to us. One thing that we did have was a tremendous amount of passion and dedication to the project. We wanted to do the best. And so this was a project that we were commissioned to do, that Concept Culture, myself, and Sanchez Benton were commissioned to do with Where Pathways Meet as well, a sustainability consultant, to test ideas with local people, to have a process of co-design, authorship, stewardship, for a particular part of Neasden, the high street that was but has suffered over the decades in terms of decline, air pollution. The road infrastructure makes it quite a harsh sort of place in terms of pedestrians. There's not a lot of greenery, air quality, etc. So we were commissioned to look at the space and develop an action plan for the future with a set of phased proposals for the short, medium, and long term. Those proposals had to be informed by the local people. So, again, the starting point was auditing the place, engaging the people, and particularly young people. So we did that process, and we had a series of engagement events over a month or so, and then we developed design proposals for the high street. So it's a really, really interesting project to do, and we were able to tell that story. And the best thing was that this action plan was part of a bid that the council were going to put forward to the Mayor of London. There was an opportunity to bid for some money as part of the Civic Partnership programme, and Brent Council won. Brent Council won the biggest piece of the pie. They won £3 million, and so that's a great success, and really, really pleased for the council because they will now sort of take this forward. Obviously, they will sort of put more funding towards it and hopefully create something of legacy for the community using that action plan. So yeah, we don't know what will happen next. We wait to hear from Brent Council to see where they've decided to prioritise that money. But yeah, it's a really nice, good one to watch, I think.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. I was very pleased when they won, and they won the biggest pot. So that's testament to obviously the quality of the ideas that were presented in the action plan that were proposed based on the community engagement activities that we performed as a group within the limited time that we had. So that the Neasden project certainly is an example of doing a lot with less.
I mean, I think it's important to say that was the beginning, and I have no doubt that when the council and the Mayor of London come to implementation, they will dedicate, a fair amount of time to testing those ideas again. I think it was a bit of a demonstrator as to what could be done. So yeah, as I say, I look forward to seeing what their next steps are.
Absolutely. And for me, one of the big wins for us as Concept Culture is when we had that first meeting with Brent, and they showed us the reasons why we won. And one of the key reasons was the place branding and place storytelling element of it. I thought, well, I was quite thankful and grateful for that, for them to share that, because that means that hopefully that agenda is now starting to rise, and now councils are realizing the importance of telling that story, however you want to call it, place brand, place story, place narrative. They all mean different things to different people, but at the end of the day, it is celebrating a place through the stories, through people, culture, history. So obviously Neasden is one project, but there's another project that we are working on together, which is also exciting because it's not in the UK. It's from our motherland, yes. India. So that's another thing Rumi and I have in common. We're both Indian. We both spent some time growing up in India. And why don't we talk with the listeners through what we're doing at the Siat Chennai Masterplan.
Yeah. So yeah, as you say, very exciting and a very different place. So we have been commissioned as a sort of a consortium, along with lead architects, to look at a master plan and a vision for manufacturing plant, which belongs to SEAT, who are a very large manufacturing company. They manufacture tyres in India. They're probably top 5, I would say. So they have a number of factories across India. Their flagship factory is in southern India, and we were asked to go along, do some stakeholder engagement, storytelling, collaborative consultation, as Tanisha, you say, to sort of bring out that story, that place narrative, which will then be used to inform the master plan and the vision.
And so part of what we did was obviously going to India. And so we went to Chennai, which is in southern India. We ran an engagement workshop with people who work there on the ground. So we talked to a range of people, right from the MDs and the VCs, because it's very corporate in structure, down to what they call the associates who operate the machinery. And that was absolutely fascinating to walk through that factory and experience what they do every day. And that's definitely not something we could have done sitting back here in the UK. We had to go to the place. We had to see what the everyday life is of, what a day in the life of a manufacturing plant looks like, to perform that, and then to come back with those stories and with the ideas to inform the next phase of the work that we're doing. So, in terms of that stakeholder engagement piece, what was important for you in terms of delivering those workshops, and what were you hoping to capture in those workshops?
I think similarly to what I've said before, I think it was just a really informed local understanding of what this place is, how is it used, how does it work, how does it not work, what might the aspirations be. I know the project team, we had a number of discussions beforehand about the naming of this place. What is this place? Is it Chennai? Is it, in fact, the factory is not in the city of Chennai. It's a little drive, actually an hour and a half drive outside of Chennai. So does the city Chennai mean, does it land with people who live and work here? As an example. So that kind of thing was what I wanted to really kind of get an understanding of, to touch and to feel what people resonated with, or what resonated with people in terms of their daily work, their work ethic, what the corporate values are. And yeah, I think, as you say, we wouldn't really be able to understand that to the extent that we did without visiting there. Because, and again, I come back to feelings and emotions, because we were talking about things like pride and dedication and reverence, and craftsmanship, and all of these things, hearing those things from the community, from the employees, and what this place of work meant to them was, again, something quite intangible and actually very emotive. So yeah, that's what I wanted, and we got that in spades, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, if you were to tell someone that, oh, I'm working on a tyre manufacturing plant, it wouldn't conjure up the most creative of images.
No, it wouldn't at all. But you and I were walking around the factory, having listened to these incredibly talented, dedicated young men and women who are working there in a company that values them, that empowers them, that skills them up. And we were moved emotionally. And I had I was thinking, what am I doing? I'm walking around a tyre manufacturing plant and I've got tears in my eyes.
Yeah,
It was really quite special
It
to be able
was.
to.
It really was, and I felt that too. There were, these youngsters, early 20s, mid 20s, fresh out of university, their whole career ahead of them, and then doing something that is, so something that's so technical, like running a manufacturing facility. And I hope that now that we can share that when we go back to the drawing board, that we are able to share these stories of these incredible people who are running these plants, these unheard stories. I mean, and something as, a commodity item as a tire, which essentially helps the world go round. To me, that was what was, when I put two and two together, I was like, wow, this is something special. And I hope, and I'm sure that we will deliver an impactful and meaningful story for the plant. And I also hope that it's only one of many more similar projects to come. But the lesson definitely for me is to not underestimate the feeling and the emotion that can come from a manufacturing facility. Like most people would bat an eyelid when it comes to industrial logistics, database warehouses, but there are treasure troves of stories as well due to the sheer number of people that walk around and inhabit and operate those spaces. So yeah, definitely emotional journey and unexpected emotions walking around a tire manufacturing facility. Fascinating. Well, so coming back now from India, coming back to the UK and the built environment sector in the UK at large. What are the key factors to consider when telling a story about a place? And are there any stories of places that have stood out for you in the past that you would like to share?
For me personally, I'm always seduced by history and culture. And we're speaking about India. So I would always go back to India, a place that I spent my formative years, particularly the city of Calcutta. So yeah, stories of Calcutta and the markets and some of the streets and the layers of history that the city has, but not just the city, the country, layers and layers of history and community and culture in the buildings, in the religions, in the communities, in the food, in the rivers, and it's incredible. So I can't eat Indian food without thinking about where this came from or who brought this here. Was it the Portuguese or was it the Mughals? Or and so that always kind of resonates with me when I'm in Calcutta, particularly, and experiencing places like street markets and festivals and the riverside, particularly in Calcutta, the colonial history, the trade. I've read so many books about this aspect as well. The idea of different different people coming to a place and laying on their culture and that being embedded into a place is absolutely fascinating. So yeah, for me, Calcutta is a place personally that holds many stories, many inspiring stories of people, place, culture, history.
It's called the City of Joy.
Yeah.
Well, at least in Western context. But yeah, going back to history, the fundamentals of what makes us who we are, our history, our culture, the geography, natural features, and certainly for Indians, food and festivals. I mean, that's what will bring most people together. I think growing up in Mumbai, I think we celebrated every festival under the sun, no matter what it was: Diwali, Eid, Christmas, and as definitely as children, you got a holiday for a lot of them, so that was always fun. and that enabled you to then have those multicultural festivals and celebrate the very multicultural and rich history. So in the UK context, also the UK is also a country with a lot of history, culture, and in our sector, are we doing enough when it comes to storytelling? What would you like to see more of?
I think, some of the questions we've talked about and the ideas that we've discussed ring true here. I think there needs to be more space and time given to those unheard voices, to those unshared stories. Because I think for a long time, perhaps there's been perhaps one or two or a few prevailing voices or stories that have taken the stage, and I think there's a general kind of feeling across the board that equality or diversity, inclusivity needs to happen at all levels. And I think, place narratives and telling people stories is very much included in that. So yeah, more space, more time, more thought and consideration to how we can best understand those stories to create that authenticity and to create that sense of belonging and welcome for everybody in the places that we shape.
Absolutely. I think I very much agree with you and echo what you're saying, particularly on the point of unheard voices. And I remember certainly while working on the Neasden project, very much the council's brief was we have to listen to everyone, not just people who shout the loudest. Obviously, the louder voices are always heard, and what are the voices that we're not hearing for various reasons? And like you say, going that extra mile, making that extra effort to make it comfortable for people to come forward and share their stories, because it's we're all part of a very multicultural society here in the UK, and everyone's voice is valid, everyone's story is important, and so definitely as practitioners we should go above and beyond in at least trying to gather the unheard voices and the lesser heard voices and the voice of the youth as well.
And that's and it's hard because what that means as a practitioner is you might need to use different ways. You might need to think of ways that take a little bit more time, that take a little bit more resource. A colleague of mine at the GLA, Louise Duggan, she always refers to the hard to ignore. So we talk about the hard to reach, but there's also the hard to ignore, the people that come to every single meeting, the people that email you constantly, the people that are out there with their own placards and flyers kind of sending their messages, which is great. We've got, local people who are passionate, who are invested in their place. Why not? But sometimes it's hard to ignore those louder, more visible voices and the ones that also have something to say, equally valid, perhaps don't show up or don't have the time or have other barriers like language, income, whatever it is. And so it's harder to reach those and it's harder to ignore.
I find that this hard to ignore group interesting, the way that has been framed, because you're right, the people who are coming up, making the effort to actively come for whatever reason. And then, you cannot ignore them, as you say. But recently I've come across someone who, at a recent conference, who talked about, they openly said, I don't know why council calls us hard to reach. What have they tried to do to reach us? So hearing that then questioned, why why are certain groups labeled hard to reach? Is it hard for you to reach them? So I that has made me, now I rarely use that term. That has made me take a step back and think about, I don't think I would like to be labeled as hard to reach.
Yeah, it's not a great label, is it? For sure. But again, it comes down to resource and time, and we have to be more creative and resourceful in how we are reaching people. It's a challenge, and it's not one that's a standard approach that you can use everywhere. Something that worked in one place might not work in another.
Well, on that note, I think we can bring the formal proceedings of the podcast to a close. Thank you very much, Rumi, for sharing your insights. And we'll now move into the final segment. It's a little fun segment that we call Know Your Neighborhood. I will share 3 facts of your neighborhood of choice. And you have selected Peckham. Peckham in Southeast London, and I would like you to share whether you think that fact is true or it's false, and why you might think that that might be the case. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Right. Let's see how well Rumi knows her neighborhood. So, fact number 1: the name Peckham means town on the hill.
I think that's false.
You're right, that is false. And why do you think that was false?
I read quite a lot. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it does mean, but I think Peck came from the River Peck.
Yes, okay.
And I'm not sure that Ham means town or hill, but...
Yeah, okay. So I think this is very much a trick question. So the name is likely Anglo-Saxon and means village among the hills, so not town. But the Old English word for hills is Peg.
Okay.
And Ham means village. But I've also read other sources where there was a river and it was called Peg. So fact number 2. Peckham is also known as Little Lagos.
I'm going to say true. I know that it's quite a centre for West African produce and hair products. I know beauty and hair products. I know that people do travel to Peckham to buy, ingredients and hair and beauty products.
And you are correct. It is true. Peckham has a long-standing multicultural community and is a popular destination for Nigerians, earning the nickname Little Lagos. And you're right, even I know that it's very much a hotbed for hair and beauty products. Well done, 2 for 2. You're on a roll. Let's see if you can get the third one right as well. All right, so our third and final fact is the famous street Rye Lane used to be named Market Street.
I'm gonna say true.
All right, that's false. That was a tough one. Okay. We gave you 2 easy ones, and then so we had to give you one tough one. So Rye Lane was originally named South Street until the early 19th century, and then it was changed to Rye Lane, and then it was famous for its Rye Lane Market, and it also shares its name with the 2023 film set in the area, directed by Rain Allen Miller. In case you didn't know. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, 2 for 3.
2 out of 3, not too bad.
Not too bad. So for those listening, maybe if you venture into Peckham, Rumi might show you around next time. See you in Peckham. Well, all that's left for me to do is to thank you, Rumi, for being a part of this podcast, being a part of the very important conversation about telling authentic, meaningful places and creating good places, as we say. So here's to a continued mission and collaboration between Rumi Bose and Concept Culture to create good places in the built environment.
Absolutely. More of that. Thank you so much, Tanisha.
We'll see you soon.
Next, we will hear from Palak Jhunjhunwala. Palak is a design professional and strategist working across architecture, urban planning, and the arts, with extensive experience delivering projects at various scales and sectors worldwide. As co-founding director of Beyond Design, Palak is dedicated to delivering design excellence and well-crafted solutions that prioritize sustainability, inclusivity, and user needs. An advocate for equity and diversity, Palak actively promotes inclusion initiatives while championing sustainable innovation and well-being is central to her practice. All right, let's talk place.
Palak, welcome to Talking Place, the podcast where we bring placemakers and storytellers together to talk about place.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So why don't we start with your journey? Please share with us how you got into your field of expertise and what role you play in shaping our built environment.
Okay, so I am from a design, architecture, urban planning background. Starting design school was a happy coincidence, I would say. I had no idea. I come from a business background family, so someone just thought it was a good idea for me to study architecture, and there I was, and I never left. And I've enjoyed it ever since. What role I play in shaping the environment? I think there's a certain people-centric nature to the job that we do. And it provides the opportunity and the responsibility almost to influence people and to excite them about their environments. So that's very much our role, to help people build better places, to build friendlier places for the planet, to build with community, and that's at the core of practice for me.
And for those of us who don't know your practice, what is the name of your practice?
It's called Beyond Design. It's a practice where we tend to go beyond design in the way we look at our urban environments and the places that we occupy.
Oh, I love that, beyond design. So it's not just design, it's more than design.
Much more than design, yeah, very
Excellent. Much. All right, so this podcast is all about place, and I love to start every conversation with a definition. So I would love to hear how you define place. What does place mean to you, and what's the most important aspect of a place to you?
Okay, I think place for me is probably a combination of a location or a space, the physicality of it, and people and culture. And these are probably the three aspects that really manifest in a place for me. What it means to me is an opportunity to an experience which is very local, which is itself, and it doesn't try to be something else. So what I mean by that is, when you go somewhere and it's authentic, when you go somewhere and it reminds you of itself, it stays in your memory for much longer in a concrete manner, and that's really what defines a place. If you pick up a place and put it somewhere else, that place changes. But in a globalized world, that might not always be the case. So yeah, it's really the authenticity of the place that that experience that it creates that gives a place its meaning for me.
I love that. I mean, for me, authenticity is everything when it comes to both placemaking and storytelling. And like you said, a lot of us share fond memories with places, and as we grow up, as we experience the world, places shape our memories and create longing connections in our minds. So with that in mind, what is your most favorite place in the whole world?
Oh, that's a really tough one. I'm not sure if it's my favorite place, but it is probably my fondest place. Also because I don't have access to it anymore. But it's when I was little in the summer, we used to go to my maternal grandmother's it used to be a village. Now it's a little town. And there was a huge fruit orchard there. We would all go together, like my cousins and I, and we would basically pair up and have these fruit collecting competitions. But essentially, what it was an experience of harvest, which is something that you wouldn't really do. I mean, we weren't harvesting for supplying to a town or anything like that. We were harvesting for ourselves, but it was the local produce. It was very much a local experience. It was with the people that only gathered in this particular location for me. So, again, the people, the place, and the authenticity that came with the localization is just so embedded. Like, it was the first thing that came to my mind when you said, what's the place that you are most fond of?
Oh wow, that sounds so special. Thank you for sharing that. And for our listeners, what is the name of that place?
So the town's called Devghar. It's in northeast India, in the state of Jharkhand now. Used to be Bihar.
Oh, excellent! Wow. Okay, I personally haven't been to Jharkhand myself, but it's on the list like so many other places.
You got to try the mangoes.
Yeah, I bet. So. For those listening, Palak and I have something very special in common. We both grew up in Bombay, or Mumbai as it is now known, and it is one of the most incredible cities. It's not called Maximum City for no reason, and has a very much rich, multi-layered history. And that's what brought us together when we met a couple of months ago at a conference, and since then we have been working on a project together. So, Palak, why don't you share a little bit about that project and what we're doing together?
Yeah, sure. So we're working on the Siat Chennai Masterplan. It's a vision piece and a storytelling piece that we're doing together to embrace the place of where this manufacturing plant is located. It's very much an ambition of the corporate, I would say. A legacy of this tire manufacturing company that they want to, or they've realized the value of building this place ground up with the emotions of the place very much imbibed into the project. So I would say what we're collectively trying to do here is to have a bottom-up approach, to build a story that comes from the people and to the people, and have every aspect of design, space, architecture, even the kind of signage, or any sort of physical and non-physical elements kind of buy into this one vision that we're trying to deliver. So yeah, so glad that we're doing this together.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have to say, I really enjoy working with Beyond Design and Rumi Bose, one of our other project partners, to deliver this place identity for the Siat Chennai master plan. And it's been quite the journey. And we had an amazing trip on site, visiting the plant in person, conducting a series of stakeholder engagement and cultural immersion, and visiting the local villages, which are also impacted by the plant and the facilities, and hearing their story as well, and then disseminating it back at the corporate HQ in Mumbai. So coming back to the storytelling aspect of it, as a designer, what are the key factors you consider when telling the story about a place? And beyond this project that we're working on together, are there any other stories of places that have stood out for you in the past?
I think to tell a story of the place, one thing is that the history is really important. I think when history plays a role in shaping the future, so the past plays a role in shaping the future. There is a lot more that it's able to provide, because there is a naturality to what used to exist. And with the built environment, an imposition is one of the worst things that you can do. A sensitive approach wherein you're trying at least to sustainably bring this place up to whatever potential you think it has, helps to shape the place in a much better manner. So history is a key one. And then I think the other one is empathy. So to kind of, really be on ground, um, understand the place itself, what journey it's had, understand the people, and then try to build in that, really listen and be able to understand what they want is, I think, the road to kind of getting there.
Absolutely, I would agree. Having empathy, listening, being respectful of what already exists, and particularly in the case of the Siachen manufacturing plant, it's about blazing the way forward as well. One of the key criteria for that story is how SIAT are paving the way for manufacturing innovation as well. And so while one foot is rooted in the past and the history and the legacy of the place, the outlook is very much future forward and wanting to be the best tire manufacturer brand, if not in India, in Asia and the world.
Absolutely. I mean, hats off to Seat Tires for sure. They do have a really, they're very enlightened, I think, and they're spreading their enlightenment, I think, through the work that they do. But it's really satisfying to be involved with a client like that, because for them, being future forward and being the best is not just about producing the maximum number of tires in the shortest amount of time. There's so much quality that is realized through the process, and that's why we're all working with them, to shape this amazing future, which involves communities, which goes beyond the walls of their manufacturing plant, which takes, it's like sort of this collective, everyone's lifted up together rather than being like, okay, I'm racing forward and, you can follow me. It's more of a, change is collective, as I love to say. So, it kind of very much signs up to, prescribes to that emotion.
Incredible. And I want to pick up on this this notion of the enlightened client. I mean, I love how you framed it, and it absolutely, I agree that working with a client like Siat has been a joy because they are an enlightened client. So, in your view, how important is it to have such an enlightened client, and what is the impact that enlightenment can have on the final output?
I think it's everyone's dream, right?
Yeah,
but I mean, it's a dream as long as,
for sure, yeah.
As long as you're also you've got the same set of values. I think we collectively enjoy and have enjoyed this journey so much because it's an alignment of value chain completely with this project. We would love to see more. We are seeing more and more of it every day, which is, the optimism for the future. However, this is my first experience in India to have, and that's why maybe it's even more amazing, because the kind of potential that this kind of work has, there's lots of really amazing legacy corporates. And if they all started to do this kind of work, it would create a movement that is unmatched. So I think the importance of it, I don't think I can describe it. It has the potential to be everything really. And if we were able to get more people to, as I said in the beginning, like excite people and influence people in this direction, I mean, I'm already excited about that.
And then I can feel your excitement. So here's to more enlightened clients, and may we collaborate with them to, like you say, tap into the collective power of not just telling better stories and communicating better stories, but genuinely making the world a better place through those stories, and hopefully those stories then pass on from generation to generation, and create very impactful legacies. So that's all about SIAD. Now, and you talked about working in India as well, and this is Concept Culture's first project in India as well. And like I've said before, India at Mumbai and India holds a very special place in both of our hearts. And obviously, we would love to do more work in India. So, for a country like India with such a diverse, rich, and varied heritage, what are the challenges that you think we would face when telling the story of India in a respectful way, particularly to audiences outside of India?
So I actually don't think it's very challenging to tell the stories. I think this approach that we're talking about, which is very bottom up, it's a spirit of co-design. The people, the users, they're the ones who are living and imagining, and kind of you're projecting yourself constantly in an environment. As long as they're involved in the process and we're taking them on a journey with us, the story will evolve and the spirit of the story will evolve. I think the problem sort of comes in when we're imposing a story or we're imposing a globalized vision for a place that doesn't belong to the place. So if it's not displaced, I think the story will emerge and it will be itself, and it will be understood better. But the voice needs to be not my voice or somebody else's voice. It needs to be this collective voice that is shared. And you also, in that process, there's a bit of education on both sides. There's a bit of influence on both sides. There's that power of imagination together. So it will manifest, and I'm confident of that because that's what's been happening. It will manifest into this sort of glowing, glorious vision each time. So I'm not worried about how to tell the story. I'm only worried about the method that is adopted in the course of creating these stories.
Yeah, and I can't agree more. And you touched upon co-design. So for those who are listening, how would you define what co-design is for someone who's not familiar with the term?
I think it's about handing a pen to everyone in the room. you know Everyone pitches their ideas. It's about bouncing off each other, and then the sum is greater than the individual parts, essentially. So it is as simple as the word, though. You are designing together, so you're allowing people to partake in the process. At the end of the day, you are still the expert, right? So you will assimilate and you will come up with something new as a result. It doesn't take away the authorship of, I think a lot of people, professionals kind of, and especially the era of the star architect, all of those notions are quite different from what we're talking about here, because it isn't this is my style and this is what this place needs. It's emergent, and I think it just allows you to do more. So co-design is collaboratively designing. So it brings everyone to the table, brings more responsibility, brings more ownership, brings more pride, brings more empathy, creates new friendships. It's fantastic, I think.
Absolutely, I love it. So co-design, co-authoring stories together, telling real stories, real places of real people. I think that pretty much sums up how our approach towards the SIA Chennai Place Identity in Place narrative project is, and we're excited to share the final outcome when we get to that when we get to that stage soon. Yes. So now moving away from India, and now coming back to the UK, and thinking about the built environment, real estate, property sectors. Do you think we're doing enough when it comes to storytelling? And what would you like to see more of?
I think we are market leaders. I think we are doing it better than a lot of the world. I am proud to be here and promoting these ideas which are being adopted worldwide more and more. Are we doing enough? Probably not. There are other factors at play, I think, and kind of coming back to being a realist rather than an optimist. There are other factors at play, with SMEs, small to medium sized organizations, developers, local authorities. It's difficult, especially in a London scenario, to make things completely work. I guess a lot of people talk about this, but somewhere where there's relaxation for smaller developers, smaller developments to be able to achieve the same sort of standards or to be able to achieve the same level of placemaking, place shaping in the process, could be something that's good. Something that I always feel like when it's done in collaboration, maybe me as an SME and you as an SME will not be able to really indulge in place shaping. But if we all did get together, maybe we have the same power as a larger developer. But of course, there's other factors at play there. But there's also government bodies and institutions that are able to create a pool of knowledge for sharing or create a vehicle for sharing knowledge, which I think is very useful. But I think one thing that I want to see more is a continuous set of people involved from the start to the finish of a project, because I think there's a lot of disconnect when projects are undertaken. They have life cycles of a few years, and usually due to financial reasons, there are different people at the beginning, middle, and the end of the project. There isn't that chain going through. I think going back to SEAT, for example, that project so far has been as successful as it has because there is a continuous chain of the same people working through the project. And that's the intention of the future as well. So I think that continuity is important because it creates the link. It doesn't break that cycle of the value chain that you started. You did all the findings, and then it's lost somewhere when someone's constructing a building, or people are occupying it.
Yeah, so get us involved from the get-go.
Absolutely.
Yes, continuity, consistency, collaboration, all very important aspects of meaningful and authentic storytelling. Well, that comes to the end of the formal segment of our podcast. And now we are going to have a little bit of fun. And this final segment is called Know Your Neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So, Palak, how well do you know your neighborhood? Let's find out. So, my notes tell me that your neighborhood of choice is Ealing in West London.
Correct.
So, I have three fun facts about Ealing, here with me. And I'd like you to tell me if they're true or false.
Okay, fine.
And why you think they're true or false. All right, are you ready? All right, let's begin. So, fact number 1. Ealing has the largest Spanish-speaking community in the UK.
Wow, that's not a question I expected. Spanish-speaking? No, false.
That is correct. Okay, we wanted to start it off nice and easy. So who do you think is, well, apart from English, who do you think is the largest?
Maybe Punjabi?
No, not even close. So Ealing is home to the biggest Polish-speaking population in the UK, with 6.4% of residents being native to Poland. Anyway, moving on. Fact number 2. Ealing Studios is the oldest continuously working film studio in the world.
True? I don't think so, but
Okay.
I mean, it is one of the oldest. I don't know about in the world.
Okay.
Stop.
Yeah, so that is true. So that's correct. So you've got one right. Ealing Studios was first built in 1902 and was the first studio in the UK. So it's the first studio in the UK, but it is the oldest continuously working film studio in the world. So it's still in operation, and Ealing is famous for its film scene. So that's quite a claim to fame
That is.
for Ealing Studios.
And actually, Ealing's doing a lot now for their creative industries. So if anyone listening is interested,
Yeah,
they should get in touch.
absolutely. Yeah, you know where to find Beyond Design. Finally, fact number 3. The Ealing project is the first new cinema in Ealing in over 14 years.
I think that's true as well. Yeah, I think that's true as well.
Correct. So that is true. So 2 for 3. So not bad. The Ealing project is a multifunctional community space and cinema in Central Ealing. It's the first new cinema in the area in 15 years, offering a 3-screen cinema, cafe, bar, community room, stage for live performances, and exhibition space for local artists. So yeah, go Ealing, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Filmworks now. There's
Yeah.
Act One, which is a community-based project. There's loads happening in Ealing. I do endorse it to anyone who wants to visit or live there. What have
All
you.
right. Well, so for anyone who wants a tour of Ealing, reach out to Beyond Design, and Palak will be your personal tour guide. Well, all that's left for me to do is to thank you, Palak, for joining us on this episode of Talking Place. Thank you for sharing your insights with our audience, and I hope that us as Concept Culture will continue collaborating with you on projects like the SIAD Masterplan and beyond.
Many more to come. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure, and all the best. I hope this podcast series kills it.
Oh, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to join the conversation on social media with the hashtag #TalkingPlace. I would also love for you to leave our podcast a review and subscribe to all our podcasts and YouTube channels so you don't miss an episode. There's so much more to explore when it comes to creating good places, and I'm excited to do a deep dive into other topics with you in our next episode. I'm Tanisha Raffiuddin, and it's been my pleasure to be your podcast host. Thank you for listening. See you again next time, where we'll continue Talking Place. Talk soon.